right, let's talk about some tools that we can use to enhance our pencil drawings. So the first thing that we're going to need are some pencils. And I just recently discovered these Blackwing pencils. And this pencil makes a really nice black mark that is matte, so it's not very shiny like regular graphite. This is just a really super soft, really nice pencil, and it's my go-to pencil right now. I really enjoy using it. Now, I also sometimes use these Mars Lumograph black pencils. These come in a set, and this set is HB all the way down to 8B. And they have a real nice, big, soft lead that you can use it on its side to create large pencil strokes, almost like a paintbrush. So that's a really good pencil. It also makes a really black line, and it's less shiny than regular graphite as well. Okay, so we're gonna need something to smudge our pencil marks, and these blending stumps are really handy to do that. These come in all different sizes. This is kind of a medium size, and you can sharpen them down to a really fine tip and just use them to blur and smudge and create really nice middle tones. Now, another way to blend and smudge pencil marks is to use an art sponge. And I recently learned about these art sponges and this technique from an artist named Greg Manches. And he's a really great artist, and he's author of the book Above Timberline. And you can use these to blend and create really nice abstract effects. And it just smudges pencil marks really, really well. You can also use a makeup sponge, which is really, really close to the same thing, but this one has a sharp edge and this one has a real rounded edge, and I've cut this one into a couple different shapes, but it will essentially do the same thing. If you don't have sponges on hand, though, you can always use your thumb to do almost the same thing and smudge out to create gray tones in your drawings. Now, we're also going to need an eraser, and my go-to eraser is a kneaded eraser, because you can twist it and you can create a really sharp tip on it, or you can wad it up and create a real blunt, real large eraser. This is a really handy eraser to have just because of its versatility, and it also will remove almost everything, just almost all of your pencil marks with it. I also, from time to time, will use a pencil eraser. This is basically a pencil with, instead of a lead, it has an eraser that can be sharpened down to a really fine point. So if you had some small details to erase, maybe something around an eye or just a really small area, you can use this one. All right, now let's take a look at using some of these tools to create a pencil drawing and to modify it and work with it a bit. Okay, so we have a cat drawing that we're going to use for this demo, and this particular drawing was done on a mixed media paper. This one is a 9x12, but the drawing here is done on a little bit bigger size. Now, I often use mixed media paper because it's a little bit of a thicker paper and it's got a nice texture to it. And in case I want to add maybe paint or some water to the paper, it can handle it in case I wanted to add that extra layer before converting it to digital. But for now, we're going to stick to pencil, and this particular drawing at this stage was done with the Blackwing matte pencil. Now, I hold the pencil a couple different ways. I will hold it at what I call my regular just pencil grip, that I'm using the tip of the pencil to get the real fine, harder edges, just in the detail areas. Then I will also hold the pencil on its side, like this, to get these larger, almost like paint strokes, these larger areas of tone. And then with lighter pressure, I will create these textured areas, just these extra bits of gray and the real dark, real big strokes. Okay. Now at this stage, we could also switch over to the Lumograph black pencils. I'm going to pick up the 8B pencil. Now this has that really thick tip that can be used, again, like a paintbrush, used on its side to create just these really larger areas of darker tone. Okay, so in my drawing, I want to look for a good variety of sharp edge detail. I want to look for the texture. I want to look for a little bit of tone at this stage. some of these dark shapes in the fur and some of our detailed areas. Okay, so I'm going to also switch over to the art sponge, and I'm going to add even more tone by just taking the sponge and just wiping it over the drawing. As you can see, we're not just in black and white anymore, we're creating this like middle toned gray area, and we're getting like almost like brush strokes that happen over the drawing. Okay, so now we want to come back with our eraser, and we can start to erase some of this middle tone gray to create or bring back some of our highlights. So I took the kneaded eraser, and I'm just going to just twist and sharpen a little bit of a tip there. And I'm just going to use the eraser again to bring back in some of that lighter tone. Also creates a nice texture as well. And this kind of thing is really going to show through in the digital stage when we get there in a bit. Go ahead, and I'm going to swipe this over the eye one more time. Okay, so I'm going to go all over the drawing again and bring back those highlights from my newly created gray tone. And we also want to come back with our pencil and bring back in some of those harder edges that may have gotten lost when we were using the sponge. Now, if there's an area that needs a bit more of a tone or a blend, we can switch over to the blending stumps that have a little bit more of a sharp edge that we can really go in and start to create a nice blend between the dark and light tones. And again, our pencil eraser, we can use this like in the eye here to really bring back some of those really sharp highlights. And I'll switch back to the 8B pencil and really bring back in some of those really dark black areas. Okay, so I'm going to go all around the drawing and just work into light and dark. I'm going to be using that gray tone as sort of that middle area that I just created with the sponge. Okay, so I go back and forth through the process using the sponge to get my gray tones in, and sometimes I'll come back and add a few more. I'm using my eraser and going back and forth and pulling some of those highlights back, as well as coming back to the pencil to bring in or bring back some of those darker areas and details as I'm wiping them away. So it's kind of a bit of a back and forth process to get the final tone drawing. And you can see that that wipe of the sponge creates this really nice, creates a really nice texture and a really nice sort of painterly effect to the drawing. Okay, so now we have our finished cat drawing